our next guest, Noah Sidel, is an NDG resident. He's vice president at National Dispatch Group. He ran for the CAQ back in 2018.
2014.
I'm sorry, 2014. My bad.
Yeah.
And now we have an election, of course, coming up in October. And you think, well, you might want to run again that way, but apparently he's not. Noah's on the phone. Hi, Noah.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks. So first of all, I guess the first question is, why did you run for them back in 2014?
Actually, I was approached at the time, believe it or not, by Dominique Anglade, who was as we know, is the Liberal leader today. She was the president of the CAQ, and we had a little tiff on Twitter at the time about something someone said that I thought was a little out of line, and then she reached out to me, and we ended up engaging in a conversation. And she ended up bringing François Legault to my house for a kitchen party in my backyard.
Oh?
And,
no way.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. And at the end of it, I said, well, what are your plans for a candidate in NDG? After François Legault looked me directly in the face in front of 15 people and said, the time for referendums is over. Sovereignty is off the table. We're not doing it. I said, what do you do in NDG? And she said, well, are you interested? And that was how I ended up becoming the candidate in 2014 for the CAQ.
I'm sorry. I'm more interested in François Legault showing up in your backyard for this party. What was he in the party at the time?
He was from the beginning, he was the founder and leader.
So what was Dominique Anglade? Because you said she approached you.
She was the president of the CAQ at the time.
Okay. But he was the leader of the party even back in 2014,
she brought him to my house. They do these summer sort of barbecue kitchen party thing.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know you.
And did you buy into this François Legault looking you in the eye saying we're not interested in this anymore? Obviously, because you decided to run for them.
Absolutely. There is no more federalist, proud Canadian in Canada than me. And for him to look me in the eye, and he said, granted, it's going back to 2014, so I might be paraphrasing, but it was something to the effect of, we got the message twice, and it's time for all of us to move forward together.
So that was then, this is now.
Noah, I'm sorry. I need to ask this question. Noah, you're aware that politicians sometimes lie, right?
I'm aware that everyone sometimes lies.
Okay. Just saying. Okay. So you end up deciding to run for them. How did that turn out?
I just think it's interesting that it's funny how a lot of times in our community, in our part of the world, the default position is that somebody like François Legault has to be lying, whereas somebody like maybe Dominique Anglade isn't lying. It's sort of like this interesting dichotomy where we've already as a community decided what he stands for, so he can't say what he now stands for. He can't evolve his views.
Well, I will point out the reason I bring that up is because, as we all know, that famous Graham Fraser quote from François Legault years before you met him, where he simply said, after having grown up on the West Island, I hate the Anglos as much as you do. You remember that, right?
He was also the guy who presented a budget for a sovereign Quebec, but he's also the guy who said, fundamentally as a pragmatist, I don't think this is what people want anymore, and it's time to move past it. And I think there's a point at which, people have a right to evolve their views. And I don't know what he's going to stand for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years from now, but I know the guy looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and said, yes, I've been a sovereigntist my entire life, but I left politics. He said, I left the PQ. I could have been the leader of the PQ, but I didn't want to be part of that movement anymore, so we started our own thing. And let's not forget that he co-founded the CAQ with a well-known federalist. And, if you get into the meat and potatoes of the party, let's pretend they ever pulled the wolf in sheep's clothing nonsense that people talk about. Mm-hmm. Half the party would leave. If 50% of that party is determinedly federalist.
So you're obviously not at all concerned, as we are, because we talked about this last week, by the fact that he appointed two ardent separatists now to run for him in the upcoming election.
Both of them directly said exactly what he said, which is, this is something we've believed in, but the people don't want it, so it's time to move past it. And literally, Article 1 of the Constitution of the party is and again, I'm paraphrasing, but it's a stronger Quebec within Canada. So I sit here as a Quebecer, and again, as a very, very proud Canadian. I sit here as a very proud Canadian and proud Quebecer, and I say, why wouldn't we want our provincial representatives to fight to make us as strong as we possibly can be? Because the stronger Quebec is, the stronger the whole country is.
Okay.
So then it sounds to me like if you were asked again tomorrow that you might consider running for the CAQ again.
I would not, because I have 3 young children, and I'm not prepared to go to Quebec City for, however long. I have an 11-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son, and a 6-year-old daughter. And as much as my wife would support it because she's the best person on earth, I don't think it's fair to do to my family. And personally, I actually want to have a future in politics in Ottawa, but that's still maybe 15 years down the line.
I don't want to. The idea of the conversation was not for you to say yes, I believe it, and me to say no, I don't. But I found it fascinating a second ago when you said that Bernard Drinville, for example, one of those ardent separatists, has turned around and said the same thing that Francois Legault said to you, and you said he told you. The people don't want this now, so I'm not going to do this anymore. Which leads me to think, what happens when the people do want it? Will he turn colors and turn coat again?
So I'll tell you an interesting story, which is why I dismiss that completely. I don't believe it's possible. In 2014, 5 days before the election, Bernard Drinville and Jean-François Lisée decided, of all people to pick on, they decided to pick on me. Who am I? I was running an NDG. I was maybe the 122nd of 125 ridings that they were fighting for. Clear that I wasn't going to win. 5 days before the election, Mr. Legault was doing an interview with Benoît Dutrisac on a French station. And he says, in French, Mr. Legault, you have some interesting candidates, but the worst of them all is Noah Sidel in NDG. And François Legault, with no preparation, says, what? And he says, he's called the PQ Nazis, which I never did. And he said electing Pauline Marois was a mistake, which I never did. And he said, what are you going to do about it? And François Legault said to Dutrisac on the radio, I know him. He is a young man of convictions who believes in the mission of the party. He is not comfortable with our position and identity, but we've talked about it, and I support him in his beliefs, knowing that he's going to help support the greater good of our party. So why did I tell you that story? This is a guy who had no need to defend me. He could have thrown me under the bus. He had no preparation for it. He had no way of knowing that was going to happen. And he said, no, I'm not going to throw this guy under the bus. I'm going to stand up for him. And I the amount of respect I have for someone who would do that after meeting me a dozen times and talking to me showed me that he listened to what I had to say. He understood the community that I come from. He understood the community that I represent and that I was standing up for to hopefully represent in the National Assembly. And when somebody has convictions to do something like that, it tells me a lot more than, a theory on he felt this way in 1996, therefore he must feel that way in 2037.
Yeah, I will simply say, with all due respect to that story, my first question would be, why would he throw you under the bus? You're running as a candidate for his party. The last thing he would want to do is throw someone running for his party under the bus. There'd be no reason for him to.
No, actually there was. They said to him, you need to censure this guy and throw him off your ticket. And that's what a coward would do.
Okay. Well, I don't think anyone ever accused Francois Legault of being a coward.
No.
So, Noah, listen,
what a coward would do.
This election, you're obviously not running. You mentioned that you have no interest in this.
Interest down the road.
Yeah, down the road federally, you said. But how do you see this election panning out, if I was to ask you?
I mean, I think they're probably going to win 90, 95 seats. But I think the more interesting question is, when I say our community, of course, you understand I'm speaking, mostly about the people who listen to CJD and, live in the Anglophone community and the Allophone community. I think it's going to be a really interesting election in our part of the province, in the sense of, what is the Bloc Montreal going to do? What is the Quebec Conservative Party going to do? Are we going to send, the 8 or 9 Liberals back with 95% majorities that we always do? Or is it going to be an opportunity for us to start saying to everybody, pay attention to us? And I think that's where it's going to be interesting. Okay. I don't think the Bloc Montreal is going to do much, but I think there could be a lot of inroads for the Conservative Party. All
right. Noah Sidel, I appreciate the conversation, and thank you so much for the time today. Best of luck.
And my pleasure, anytime.